So what does it take to make your first million, to scale a business, or to get your first high street listing? I'm Oliver Bruce, founder and entrepreneur myself, and I ask industry leaders and entrepreneurs on my award-winning podcast, Success is in the Mind, exactly that. From high-growth startups to scale-ups and businesses about to exit, I am joined weekly by the founders of businesses like Octopus Energy, Genies, Thursday Dating, Habito, Cano Water and Hera, as well as many more. From sportswear to tech, energy to consumables, hear it here firsthand from those entrepreneurs innovating and disrupting. Join me every Wednesday from 8 a.m. You called me up, you were very excited. You said, I want to come on and do one of those little podcast things. And I said, why? And you go, I've just sold a business, Google Halo. And I did, nearly $1 billion. I mean, you don't have to ever work again, but you're going to.
Yes, I really enjoy building up a company, having an idea, and seeing it coming to fruition.
Thank you so much to our headline sponsors for the year, Capsule Cover. Capsule Cover, a specialist insurance partner to growth businesses, supports some of the UK's most innovative and ambitious companies. Sponsoring each and every one of our podcasts, we're on a journey with Capsule, and so should you be. If you're a scale-up or an ambitious high-growth business, check out how Capsule Cover can help you with bespoke insurance solutions. Inquire via capsulecover.com and quote Success22. In this slightly shorter catch-up episode of Success is in the Mind, we invited Rory Sweet back into our studio. Rory, who originally joined me in Series 1 of Success is in the Mind, has since sold his business for some $715 million, and he tells this podcast exclusively how. We would love to know what you guys think of these catch-up episodes where we look back with past guests at their milestones and progress. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Rory Sweet. So, Rory, you were on the show a couple of series ago. You've just sold for $715 million. How?
Well, I think it was probably a question of good timing more than anything else. It's taken us probably 4 years, I think, to get the business to that point.
Okay.
And I think all the stars happened to be aligned. Trading was very good the last year, and I think a lot of that was mainly due to COVID, funnily enough.
Because it's a tech business.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
So talk to me about what Halo does.
Well, Halo manufactures these things called optical transceivers.
Right.
Which are, if you would imagine a service provider like, say, Vodafone or BT, they've got a lot of fibre optic cables running around their network. And each one of those fibre optic cables has to plug into a little device, which then plugs into a switch. And they're all capable of transmitting data at multiple speeds,
right?
And they convert the light waves into electricity, which then goes back into the network.
And that was conceptualized by you guys, or was that something you acquired and grew and exited?
Well, it all started 20 years ago when we were a Cisco distributor.
Fine.
And we were just tinkering around with.
Was this RBR? Or was this
yes,
this was RBR.
That's right. Yeah, we were tinkering around with these switches, and we noticed that these optical transceivers that Cisco were selling happened to be made in China. And so I did a bit of research and we managed to find out where they were being made, and then we were able to buy them ourselves and rebrand them with our own brand and sell them at a fraction of the price.
And that was essentially Halo, what became Halo.
Well, that essentially became a company called ProLabs.
Right. And why was it called ProLabs, really?
Well, we thought it was quite funny at the time, but it was because it sounded like prolapse. And it was never really intended to be a serious business.
And it worked quite well.
But it did seem to take off, actually.
How much did you make from ProLabs?
What, personally?
As a business, not you individually.
Well, ProLabs eventually bought a company in the States.
Right.
And the problem with ProLabs is that we only really had one or two customers, and we needed to acquire a company with a much bigger customer base and more products. And so we bought a company in the States called Add-On.
Okay.
And they had maybe 8,000 customers, and they had a superb management team. And it turned out it was more like they actually bought us at the end of the day. And so we merged the companies together and created Halo. I inherited a business that hasn't been run very well when I was away. I think when you go away, it was all going well when I left. And having come back, we haven't spent the last 2 or 3 years rectifying it all. And we're now starting to turn the corner on it, and actually it's doing really well now.
So you went back into the previous business you mentioned last time on the podcast, and there was a hell of a lot of it, that wasn't necessarily being run correctly. That business, Hardware, is now doing, or about to do, very, very well. They're going through M&As as well. Why have they suddenly turned a corner?
I did a management buyout. Well, my management bought me out 10 years ago from that business, and I took it to 10-year sabbatical, and it turned out that it was a bit mismanaged. I think to say it was all their fault maybe would be a bit much, but it let it go basically. And I came back in to try and sort the problems out and put some new people in there.
Sure.
And it took 3 years to actually sort it out.
Fine.
And we didn't have much cash to play with. We had a load of employees that had been there for 14 years that we wanted to move on. So everyone had these huge payouts. In order to streamline the staff, and we got it down from 150 people down to now it's about 53.
And whose idea was the payout, the golden handshake? Was that yours? Was that advised?
It's just some people you don't feel fit in the organisation, and you want to move them on. And unfortunately, if they've been working there for 14 years, they're entitled to maybe I don't know what it is, 6 months pay or something.
And in terms then of when they moved on and the structural change, because it seems only over the last 6 months, so between 21 and 22, that Hardware have kind of gone down that route of significant growth. They're looking at buying businesses, merging businesses, moving to the US, looking at 100 million cap. That's massive.
Yeah, I think that now we've cleaned all of the sort of rubbish out of our balance sheet, and we've now got a proper coherent strategy, and we're now an authorized Cisco reseller, which has worked very well for us. We have a proper plan which we're sticking to. We've got great customers, a small streamlined team, and everyone's very motivated and moving in the same direction.
When you sell a company, what do you feel?
It's very exciting when it's happening, and it always seems to be not happening, and then it's happening, and then it's off again. And then
do you get annoyed when it seems like it's not happening? When it's so close to that value, that exit, that cash?
Yeah, I can't sleep.
No,
and
that's not because of the sale of the business, though, is it?
It's just very. So there are all these things are fairly life-changing events.
Well, this was your biggest exit to date, no?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
because you called me up. You were very excited. You said, "I want to come on and do one of those little podcast things," and I said, "Why?" And you go, "I've just sold a business, Google Halo," and I did, nearly $1 billion. I mean, you don't have to ever work again, but you're going to. You're going to do it.
Yes, I really enjoy building up a company, having an idea, and seeing it coming to fruition, and also working. I like working with funny people, having a laugh, and trying to create something.
What's next on the horizon then in terms of creation, irrespective of Hardware's growth? Are you investing in startups, scale-ups, SMEs?
I have been involved in a startup called Kindio.
Kindio, what do they do?
Which it's a platform that enables companies and individuals to collaborate with content in a secure and private environment, and where you're celebrating a birthday, or it could be a wedding, or it could be a company event, or anything. And we've got about 400,000 customers now, and it's growing quite rapidly. And the way it works is that if someone wants to create a Kindio for someone...
And what is Kindio then?
Kindio is a kind of online video photo montage or content, a montage of content, that they will go and invite on average about 20 people. And those 20 people will contribute content to the platform, and it's all real time, so people can participate and follow it. And then out of all those 20 people, maybe 5 will go on to create their own ones.
Fine.
And they'll invite another 20 people on average. So it's very viral.
It is a viral concept, and I'm assuming it's pay as you go in terms of just a monthly
recurring. At the moment
it's free. Is it? Freemium, is it going to become paid?
We're trying to work out what angle we're going to approach on that. But one thing that we've just established is we've been looking at some of the stats, and it's actually being used by probably 50 of the biggest companies in the world. So it's being used by by Google, it's being used by Facebook, it's being used by all sorts of companies like that. And it's being used for doing internal kind of staff things.
Oh, okay, training and comms pieces.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah, and just talk me through the process then, because do you know much about how that runs, or are you simply the kind of seed cap to get it to a level whereby it's run by other people?
Again, they don't really let me have anything to do with it.
UK-based? Is it UK-based?
Yeah, no, it is. It's based in... it's run by someone called John Gilby, and Stuart Holness is the chairman, who's also the chairman of Hardware. So we tend to all work quite closely together.
So there's a nice sort of synergy there in that sense.
Yeah.
And in terms of outside of your circle, I suppose, do you not invest in startups because you don't know the founder as well? Because it seems if you do keep it inside your circle, that's because you have that element of trust, I'm assuming.
Yes, I think that I tend to run a lot of things by Stuart Holness, and we tend to kind of stay within the same group of people, and because we've all worked together a lot in the past, and we all know each other very well, and it makes things a lot easier.
In terms of when you're selling a business, obviously you prospected and you sent it to big corporations, $45 billion corporations. Are you picky with who you sell a company to?
Yeah, I think that when you have to be sure that there is a synergy. Otherwise, you're kind of wasting your time. And if someone come along who made bathtubs, it's not really gonna, it's not really gonna get off the ground.
But do you care if you're out?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't. I think if it's right, it feels right. I mean, sometimes it's too early, and you think you can go further with it, but generally, it does kind of feel right. And I think, people who, and unless someone just comes along and offers you any amount of money. Whatever. I've never really been in that situation before, but I think that I always feel like I want to put the employees, because we do care about them, in the right hands, in the
right, and in the right era with the right HR director in place. But in terms, I suppose, of where you see this going, then, because a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to us listen to people and businesses that are scaling up, that are just starting out, that are having issues in terms of raising funding or whatever it is. You've never had that issue with raising funding. You have exited businesses. What do you come up against when you're exiting a business that is the same issue that you might come up against when starting?
Well, actually, all of our businesses have been funded
privately by yourself, or
not by me. The last one was funded by Inflection.
Okay,
Inflection they're a great company as well, actually, and they put in two very intelligent people on the board, and that's where a lot of the discipline comes from.
Right.
Where for you it's really helpful.
Yeah.
And it means that you have to, if you start getting your accounts wrong, you just get fired, and then get all your shares taken away.
Really?
And so you've got to make sure that you do it right.
So in terms of Inflection, then, what do? They are a bit like Business Growth Fund, I'm assuming, BGF, that pump money and then advise, or
they're a private equity fund, so they'll go out to their investors. They'll raise, say, £2 billion for their UK or US or growth fund.
Sure.
And then they'll go and find 20 companies to buy,
right,
or to invest in, say, a 40% stake. And they'll want to invest between 15 and 100 million or something, probably, into each one. They'll put a couple of guys on the board, and then they'll monitor it very closely, and they'll try and leverage a lot of their contacts and stuff like that to help the business grow.
Do you have to have a certain value, a certain EBITDA to be able to be recognised by them to get the funding? Like BGF, you have to have $1 million plus EBITDA. Do you have to have that with that agency?
I think when we went to them, I think we were about £5 million EBITDA, and the other company was $5 million.
Right.
So they engineered the merger.
Right. Okay.
And they put the money in, and then they bought out all the small shareholders. So about that level.
Okay, fine. And in terms then of, I suppose, exiting with them, do they then tell you who you can sell to? Do they take a lot of the steer?
They actually did a lot of the heavy lifting,
right? And
they will deal with the buyers and the buyers' lawyers,
okay,
and because they have to, concede a lot of points as well, and they. It's really in their interest, obviously, because they're working on behalf of their own investors.
Well, they want their return, don't they?
They want their return, but they don't want to, do a bad deal.
Since you started out, things have changed in the world. Do you think you could start a business in the current climate?
Well, it's interesting you say that. It all seems quite. Everything's changed a lot, particularly around all the digital marketing and everything. And I think I'm more of a traditional person, more of a transactional type business person. Where
in terms of buy and sell,
buying something and selling something, or doing a service better than someone else can do it.
What would you say the best piece of business practice is when starting a business and wanting to weather against a storm, for instance? So we had COVID, a lot of businesses pivoted and changed. You were lucky in that instance, granted, but arguably hedged and it didn't necessarily work. What would you say to startups and businesses?
I would just say that the one thing that I kind of learned, I think, the most important thing I learned was to have just really, really good financials and just make sure you have absolute control and grasp of what you're doing in that way, in all the financials and the metrics of your business. Even if it maybe costs more than you want to spend at the time.
In terms of mistakes, then, have you ever made any significant mistakes in the business? Apart from employing the wrong people, which everyone does, have you ever made a decision which you regret and had an adverse effect on the biz?
Yeah, there's always something. We used to have a kind of leaderboard of total clusterfucks.
Go on. What was on that?
I think my one was I had this idea to have a business that was, so you'd go online and order a cable and then it would be manufactured in this factory. So I ended up spending a fortune on this cable business that was making cables from the 1970s in Swindon.
Right.
And
making them in Swindon?
Yes.
Okay, right.
And then we basically never sold a single cable.
Okay. What was the logic behind that then?
Well, I think it was a nice idea, but obviously these things are made in China, aren't they?
Cheaper, yeah.
For pittance and then...
Yeah. For good reason.
Yeah.
If you didn't become such a successful entrepreneur, whether it was through intention or accident, what business would you have gone into? Stockbroking?
Well, when I was at school, they said that I should be a scientist.
Really?
I should be wearing a white coat. And they said, according to my psychological profile.
What's your psychological profile then?
I don't know quite what it was, but they said that I'd be best suited in a laboratory.
Away from everybody. Yes. In terms then of kind of, what you would say to any entrepreneur that's listening, irrespective of having fun, irrespective of making money, why did you do what you did?
For me, it's just something I fell into, and it's a path that I wanted always to not really work for anyone. I want to have the freedom to be able to do what I want whenever I want. And I think by starting your own business, that is what you get. And if you work for someone else, then you don't get that.
Do you blame yourself when you make mistakes? If the clusterfuck that you said in terms of that business where you made cables, did you?
I think mistakes. People always say this, and it's just a bit of a cliche, but it's very important to make mistakes, and it's the only way. It's the only way of learning of how not to make them again in the future.
Do you say that because you've succeeded in the ones that haven't gone wrong? Do you have a very tarnished view on it? The people that make mistakes consistently and businesses fail consistently would look at it and go, it's just generally quite irritating. Nothing's working. Whereas you've got an element to be able to make a business happen irrespective of the damage that's caused if it doesn't work. I
mean, I've been through 2 or 3 years where nothing seems to work. And I just think you have to just keep persevering and find the right format. I think that it's just we've made so many mistakes over the years, and I just think the important thing is just not to get emotional about them. It's just simply,
how do you not get emotional when it's your baby?
Just simply, it's all part of the learning experience. It's all part of success. Is failing, essentially, as we all know.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Best of luck with the next $1 billion business.
Thank you very much. I'm sure it won't be.
Thanks for listening. Join me next week, Wednesday at 8 a.m. on all podcast platforms where we'll be speaking to another leading entrepreneur. Show your support by subscribing, as without you, this podcast wouldn't happen. Produced by Pinpoint Media and sponsored by Capsule Cover, this was a Success is in the Mind podcast. Take care.